right, ladies, we are on Tuesday the 1st, so we're finally on February. This is our upper body day. The first video is always the longest, so hopefully we can start flying through these. We have, again, 4, 5, or 6 rounds, alternating bent over rows, alternating snatches, Superman rows, shoulder press, and then part 2, we have tabletop crunches. So alternating bent over rows. Alternating snatches. Superman rows. Everybody's all-time favorite exercise. And shoulder press and tabletop crunches. Is it alternating? No. Shoulder press and tabletop crunches. Okay. Alternating bent over rows. So you're gonna grab a dumbbell in each hand. And this stance that I'm going to explain to you, we do often when we do upper body stuff, even actually lower body stuff. It's kind of just like a, I don't know what you would call it, but again, we do it often. So it's just kind of feet together, or not together, but close. And then you're going to slightly bend your knees. Your butt is going to be up, so it's not going to go down like a squat. It's going to be up, and you're going to bend your back forward, okay? So some people like to be really far bent over. I always like to be a little bit more upright just because I find it easier to keep my back straight that way. I find it when I'm really bent forward, it's really easy to let your shoulders fall, and then your back is going to round. So you never want a round back in really any part of weightlifting. There's really never a time where you want your back or your shoulders to be rounded, okay? Because that's where you usually start to get strain, and then you get like a lower back pull or injury or something. So again, that's up to you, but I personally like to be a little bit more upright. So I'm gonna have my legs close together, slight bend in the knee, my butt is up, bend forward. This stance is, I don't know, I'll call it bent over row stance, okay? We do this stance often, all right? So get a little peek there. And the thing I want to show, which I just talked about, is the difference between rounding and not rounding. So my back, so like from my head to here, is pretty much straight in line. If I drop my shoulders, now there's a round, okay? So see that? So this is more straight, this is rounded. So what I was saying is, for me, the farther forward I am bent, I feel like the harder it is to keep my back straight, the easier it is to end up doing this. So you don't want to have that hump in your back. You always want your back to be straight. So you're going to grab your weights, and we're doing rows. So rows is a back exercise. So what you want to do is think about squeezing your shoulder blades. So this time we're doing alternating. So the weights are going to be in front of you, kind of like in front of your knees, and you're just going to pull one back, then pull the opposite back, okay? So this one we're counting to 20 because we're alternating, so it'll be 10 per arm. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, okay? So when I pull, I'm pulling back, okay? I'm pulling kind of diagonal back, and the weight is about here. So this is on my chest, this is on my waist. So that's about where I'm pulling to, okay? So you don't want to pull up this way. You want to pull diagonal this way, all right? And you want to make sure that you're using an appropriate weight, because you don't want to do this. You don't want to go like this. You shouldn't be bobbing when you do it. It should be very strict. So again, if you need to lower your weight, that's fine. So That is your alternating bent over row or alternating snatches. So kind of just the way that I described the stance for the bent over row, your snatch has a similar stance, you're just lower. So it's the same idea. This time though, because the weight is going to be between your legs, you're going to have a wide stance. So you're going to have a wide stance, you're going to bend your knees, your butt is going to be pushing up, not down, and your back's going to be straight, okay? So it's very similar, you just have a wide stance now, all right? So your snatch, the weight is going to start in the middle on the floor. You're going to grab the weight. So you want to think about almost like you're a linebacker, okay? So when you have to get down like that, instead of reaching for the weight and rounding your back like this, which a lot of people do, you need to get lower in your legs. So instead of rounding your back to reach, you're just going to get lower in your legs, okay? So get low, your butt's going to be up in the air. So see how my butt's up? My butt's not down here, my butt's up in the air, and I've got a hold of my weight. So what your snatch is you're bringing the weight from the floor to overhead. So I'm gonna snatch it up, flip it, 1, bring it back down, switch hands, okay? So this is why that stance is important, because when you come down, if you come down hunched, and then you switch hunched, and then you lift hunched, repetitively doing that is going to cause strain on your back. It's going to hurt, especially if you start using a heavier weight. So that's why it's so important to have that stance correct, because like I said, when you come down, you've got like 3 different opportunities to mess up your back. So you're here, your butt's up, you're in like a linebacker stance, rip that weight above your head, back down, switch, rip. Back down, switch. So I do tend to bounce when I switch, but that's okay because my back is still straight. So I come here, I lift, return it to the ground, I do a little bounce, lift. Okay? So the snatch is kind of hard to explain because a lot of people, when they go from the ground to above head, they go like this, and they do a big circle. That is some kind of lift, it's just not a snatch, okay? So your snatch comes up the center of your body, and you're shrugging your shoulder, and when you can no longer shrug, you flip the weight, okay? So shrug up your body, flip. Shrug up your body, flip, okay? So this one can be a little bit difficult if you've never done it before. So my suggestion would be look in the mirror. You can film yourself. You can send it to me if you're not sure. But you just want to remember, butt up, get lower with your legs, and then up the body, flip, okay? And you can do those slow. It doesn't have to be fast, and you can do it with a lighter weight until you're used to it. Superman rows. So you're going to get down on the ground. You may have heard of Supermans or done them before. This is just a different variation. So you're going to be on your stomach, your legs are out behind you, your arms are in front of you, okay? So what you're doing, again, is you're pulling your shoulder blades back. This is just a different way to do it. So you're here, you're going to lift up off the ground, pull those shoulders, you're almost making like a goalpost, return, down, 1, up, pull, return, down, 2, up, pull, return, down, okay? So this one, you will feel it in your lower back as well because you're holding yourself up off the ground. Your feet might come off the ground. That's okay. You don't need to do a full Superman and row, but sometimes it just happens that your feet do come off the ground. So when you're down there and you're like this, you come up, you pull like this, okay? So you're squeezing your shoulder blades when you do that pull, and then you return, down, up, squeeze, return, down, all right? And this one and the regular Superman, it's important to breathe properly because if you are out of breath or whatever, it makes it difficult because you're laying on your stomach. So what I always do is I am down, I hold my breath, let me do it this way. So when I come up, I hold my breath. So hold, 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 okay? You might find a different pattern that works for you, but it's important to find some sort of breathing pattern when you're doing that if you're out of breath, because again, laying on your stomach is gonna make it difficult to breathe, okay? And then we have shoulder press. So this one is pretty simple. You're gonna hold the weights up on your shoulders and you're just gonna press overhead. 1, 2, 3. So when you press, you wanna make sure you're pressing straight overhead. You don't wanna come in, you don't wanna come out, just press straight up, return. Press straight up, return. You wanna make sure when you press straight up, you're not doing this, and you're not pressing forward. You're pressing straight up. Your head should be between your arms, all right? Back down. So if you are somebody with a sway back, or like your hips are tilted forward, whatever it is, and you tend to do this when you lift overhead, you can do these kneeling, and I find that that helps a lot because it takes your legs out of it and it focuses more just on your upper body, so it makes it more difficult to do that arching, or you could do them seated and it's the same effect. So if you find that, you know, maybe you do shoulder pressing, you're like, oh, my back hurts, your back should not hurt from shoulder pressing. So it might be that you're doing this type of thing, and so you can try kneeling or sitting. And that's for really any upper body, besides like a snatch or something that requires you to go from the ground up. If it's a standing upper body exercise, you can always kneel or sit. So bicep curls, tricep things, any of those exercises, if it helps your form, or for whatever reason, you can always kneel or sit. And then our part 2 is tabletop crunches. So this one, you're just doing it for reps. So you're gonna pick 50, 60, 75, 82, however many between 50 and 100, and you're doing tabletop crunches. So this one, you put your feet up, we call this tabletop. So they're about 90 degrees, your shins are parallel with the ceiling, okay? So that's your tabletop hold. Now your arms, you don't have to do it this way, this is how I do it. I put them behind my head, and I come forward, I try to touch my ankles, and then I kind of scoop back. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, you could technically just go here, but I kind of enjoy like the stretch, but that's just my preference. So that is your part 2, and that is your Tuesday.